So I want to take you on a little journey back thousands of years. Imagine that you're living in the world of the Bible, the world that existed when the Torah was written back in those days of antiquity. Your world would have basically been your village and maybe a day or two's walk outside of your village, and that's all you would experience in your entire life. News, they couldn't even call it news because by the time it got to you, it was olds, because it was a day, a month, a year old, if you got it at all. That was the world. Not for 50 years, not for 100 years, but that was how humanity lived for thousands of years, where the whole sphere of knowledge was small, where news was something that was brought to you as a story by one reporter, so to speak, who may or may not have been able to convey accurately what happened. And it's only in the last 100 years, maybe 150, where literacy and technology have combined. And yes, I'm calling even a newspaper technology because think about it. When did newspapers become widely available? Not that long ago. Only then did technology and literacy combine to make it possible for the average person to be exposed somewhat to the world around them. And it's only in the last 70 years that information actually was beamed into our living rooms. Some of you might even remember a time when there were no televisions in a living room or a den or anything. And it's only in the last 30 years that we've been able to literally tap our fingers and get news whenever we want it instantly from all across the globe. So what this ultimately means is that our brains are not wired for the world we now live in. Our brains have not adjusted to the constant information that cascades into our senses. Evolution is much slower than technology. And technology has progressed far ahead of, well, our heads. Think about it. Think about how much your brain has to filter every day, every waking hour. Sitting at breakfast, I have a tendency to scroll through some of the 6 newspapers that I actually pay for and the countless emails that I get. And I'll narrate the news to my wife. And at some point, she'll look up at me and she'll say, "Can't we just enjoy our coffee?" So as I was biking and composing this sermon, because yes, I enjoy my coffee, but the news is always coming in. So as I was biking and writing this sermon, I do that a lot, you know that. 2 songs from Billy Joel came into my head, thinking about the world we live in and the craziness of the world. They're a little dated, but what's amazing is they still reflect, I think, no less, the world we live in, our modern awareness and the stress that it evokes. So I want to share just a few verses. No, I'm not going to sing, I'm just going to recite it. Just a few of the verses, so don't panic. So the first one is called Pressure. You used to call me paranoid, pressure. But even you cannot avoid pressure. You turned the tap dance into your crusade. Now here you are with your faith and your Peter Pan advice. You have no scars on your face, and you cannot handle pressure. Hopefully I'm evoking the melody. If not, Spotify it. You'll hear how he sings it. It makes you tense just to hear it. Second one from Billy Joel is "We Didn't Start the Fire." Goes like this. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire. No, we didn't light it, but we tried to fight it. And then these great verses that are, I think they're greats of all time. Little Rock, Pasternak, Mickey Mantle, Kerouac. Sputnik, Zhou Enlai, Bridge on the River Kwai, Lebanon, Charles de Gaulle, California baseball, Stark Weather, Homicide, Children of Thalidomide. Not exactly cheery words, but change just a few of them, rhyme them as well as Billy Joel did, and that could apply to our world, this state of hyper-awareness and the anxiety, the hyper-anxiety that it can evoke. Pressure. Why that song? Because we feel it. The chaotic world around us is spiraling. I'll spare you my list of things that alarm me. You probably have your own. But I doubt any of us would say everything's fine. And in fact, the conflict I'm always caught in is my world, my tiny world, everything's fine. Outside of the door of my home and my family's homes, not so much. Because we can't, now it's understandable, by the way, given that, if sometimes sitting at the breakfast table, you do just want to enjoy your coffee. I get it. But we can't all the time. And we can't shut out the world, nor should we. And how do we, at the same time, not go crazy with what's going on? So as I was biking and thinking and looking for some words to capture the state I'd like us to be in as a way of encountering our challenging world, the word equanimity came to mind. It describes that state of mind where there's a certain mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in the face of difficult challenges. Now, equanimity is not ignorance. It's not intentional blindness. It assumes an engagement coupled with calmness and composure in the face of life's challenges. Well, equanimity actually has a partner in Hebrew. And I learned of it from a non-Jewish writer in the Atlantic, Peter Wenner. In fact, he was directing his article not at Jews, but at the world, and he mentioned Christians a lot. So I would say he was really actually directing at Christians. The word, if you haven't figured it out yet, is shalom. So Wenner wrote the following. Scholars have written that the word shalom connotes wholeness and integrity, community and connectedness, righteousness and justice. They have claimed that it involves achieving the right relationship between ourselves and God and between us and others. It also has to do with restoration, with capturing God's original design for creation. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, this is Wenner quoting Jonathan Sacks, characterized it as a state in which everything is in its proper place and all is at one with the physical and ethical laws governing the universe. Wenner suggests that a shalom orientation can help us deal with the sense of alienation we might feel in the face of a fragmented world, the sense of despair we might feel in the face of human suffering, the sense of hopelessness we might experience when we encounter things that are just not right. Amazingly, this non-Jewish author goes on to cite what we know as the Birkat Kohanim from the book of Numbers as an expression of that yearning for shalom. You know the Birkat Kohanim, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, Yisar Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. English, may God bless you and keep you. May God's presence shine on you and grant you peace. May God's wisdom grant you grace, May God's wisdom be with you, and may you be granted shalom. So Wenner suggests that shalom is experienced not through ignorance, not through disconnection, but with strategic and measured, meaningful engagement. And to support his case, he cites the prophet, not Isaiah, but Jeremiah. In Jeremiah, God commands the exiled Israelites in Babylon, living within the very enemy kingdom that had just destroyed Jerusalem, he says, to, this is Jeremiah's words, seek the shalom of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to God for the city, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. And from that, Wenner draws the conclusion, even as strangers, the Israelites were told to seek the welfare of the city to which they had been called, to contribute rather than to destroy, to act with righteousness rather than vengeance. So the collective lesson I draw from Billy Joel, Peter Wenner, the writer, and Jewish tradition about how we can respond to this crazy, anxiety-provoking, chaotic world and still maintain our sanity is to seek equanimity and shalom. And here's what I think that looks like. About a month ago, 100 people gathered at our big kitchen, LA. We made together members of a black church, a Stephen Wise Temple, volunteers from the community. Together we made hundreds of meals. Did those hundreds of meals solve the problem of food insecurity? Of course not. Did they feed hundreds of people? Absolutely. Did those volunteers find shalom and equanimity gathered together? I know they did, because I was there and I felt it. Did those who received the food feel a moment of shalom and equanimity? I hope so. For my personal engagement in the community, my volunteer work, I serve at Hope the Mission. I'm on the board. Hope the Mission just finished 2 more shelters. They run another 35 in our city. One of them is right down the hill in Encino. It's a center for homeless youth, just out of foster care. It has about 38 beds. In fact, tomorrow we're going to help to build some of those beds if any of you are available. The faculty provides wraparound services to help those young people find shelter, employment, and housing. It's a temporary supportive housing place. Deeper, way back in Van Nuys, is another shelter. This one provides permanent supportive housing for the mentally ill, also run by Hope the Mission. It has 36 beds. Supportive in this case means wraparound mental health services to help stabilize and sustain and keep people off the streets. Will either of these shelters solve the problem of homelessness in Los Angeles? Of course not. But ask any of the 80 or so people in those shelters who receive those benefits, who have beds now to sleep in, if their problems are getting closer to being solved, and they will tell you, I'm sure that they are. And with a bit of luck, they will find shalom and equanimity. And I can tell you that every time I walk in the doors of Hope the Mission and join with the people who are doing such hard work, I feel a sense of shalom and equanimity. Yes, even in this crazy mess of a world, we can find those 2 qualities. Now, our actions will not solve the problem, but our engagement can give us purpose and agency. And every action we take, every effort we make, can make someone's life maybe a little better or maybe a lot better. And that's got to be enough for those we help, and it's got to be enough for us. So there's another powerfully inspiring phrase which comes from our tradition, and I have to tell you that in so many ways it's my life motto. It comes from Pirkei Avot, and I invite you to consider it as well. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ben chorin lihibatel mimenu. You can't finish the work, but you are not free from abstaining to try. It's paired with this line often. Uval habayit dochek. The master of the house is knocking. It's saying, God's impatient. God's waiting. Act. Others need us. The world needs us. And what that phrase says, God needs us to do the work in the world. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to work. Let's pursue shalom, and let's achieve equanimity. Amen.